Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Coin Lady channel. Is it possible that the startling Bill Hinman docs disclosed today will aid Ripple in winning the lawsuit? How useful will it be to the XRP community? To what extent is any of this shocking, anyway? Well, I'm going to give you what I've got right now. I've been trying to get as many videos out as possible on this topic while also learning as much as I can about it from the research that has already been done. And I'll tell you right now, since this just came out today, we haven't even begun to touch the surface. Some significant findings have been made, then. The attorneys in our XRP group and the broader crypto community are breaking this down, and I've deconstructed it and divided it up into different tiny bits that fit inside what's being unearthed and discussed regarding the Hinman docs. In fact, I'm going to give you Fox Business Network reporter Charles Gasparino's take on things here. He made a comment that prompted Brad Garlinghouse to object. We have the lawyer's opinion that the revelations in these Hinman documents don't seem to help spread the news very far or provide much new information. But before we go any further, let me say that I have no training in law or finance. Do not buy or sell anything based on anything I say or write. I am not a licensed attorney or financial advisor. For fun and as a pastime, I enjoy making videos about crypto-related topics to share on YouTube. That's okay. So, I discussed Stuart Alvarado's analysis of the Hinman documents in the first video I released today. Stuart Aldarity, CLO at Ripple, needs no introduction. In-house counsel of the highest caliber, then. I won't be covering that material again in this video. You don't have to know what's inside for me to explain the next bit to you. Therefore, the order is also irrelevant. If you want a rundown of that, you can watch my first video from today, but what we're really talking about is how much of a deal any of this is. In light of Stuart Alvarado's emotional collapse, here's what Charles Gasparino had to say. Interesting things were said by him and he retweeted it. I anticipate the immediate reaction from the XRP community being that this proves a fake. Not at all. Hester Peirce's claim is vindicated by this evidence. In the world of crypto, we need a haven. Congress urgently needs to establish ground rules for digital coins and end the practice of regulation by enforcement. Okay, after reading it, my initial reaction was, hey, you know what? I agree with the vast majority of what he said there. Hester Peirce is a commissioner on the Securities and Exchange Commission, and according to Fox Business, she was one of the commissioners that voted against filing suit against Ripple. What I don't know is why the XRP community reacted so quickly. I can't say where I stand on the extent to which people are claiming fraud exists. To be honest, I haven't seen much of any of that anyway. So, I can't say for sure if that's the right way to classify it. And I agree with Brad Garlinghouse's commentary on that. Since I agree with what Brad Garlinghouse said in answer to that particular point, I'll hold off on my own ideas for the time being. Charles Gasparino, however, received a response from John Deaton's crypto law organization, with Deaton saying affectionately, "Charlie, it's extremely serious and knee-jerk reactions are a straw man argument. The SEC was intentionally misleading the public." Yeah. That, to me, is the bigger picture consideration. And if you've watched my most recent videos, you know that already. But that's really all there is to know right now. I won't go into detail, because I believe I am succeeding in my goal of minimizing repetition from one film to the next. Again, you should be aware of the SEC's position. The rubbish they argue in the SEC v. Ripple case and the library case is not the same as what happened behind closed doors in 2018 leading up to the Bill Hinman Ethereum Free Pass speech. They're just making up whatever arguments they think would help them prevail. That's all I have to say about that for this clip. However, I did go into some detail about this in my most recent video. So, Brad Garlinghouse wrote the following in response to Charles Gasparino. I will not use the F word, fraud. I'm no expert on the law, but I think we can all agree that our government officials ought to behave honestly. Despite calls for clarification from the sector, the SEC is taking a hostile stance toward cryptocurrency. I'll point out here that Brad Garlinghouse is absolutely correct. Undeniably. From what has come to light today, it is clear that the SEC did, in fact, admit that there is a lack of regulatory clarity. I went into it at length in a different video, so I won't repeat myself here. Nonetheless, you're right. There is no denying that. Some things from the SEC were unclear. Fact. I don't know about ill faith, Charles Gasparino replied. These individuals are bureaucrats working in a government agency that is attempting to regulate a sector unrelated to its core function. The time for action by Congress is now. As a Charles Gasparino supporter, I will just disagree with you. Everyone has the right to their own viewpoint here. However, there are more than just bureaucrats working within the bureaucracy to attempt to govern the phenomenon. To simply say, "We don't know," would be okay. We're looking into this to establish standards after we've figured it out. Instead, they admitted, yeah, we don't know what the hell we're doing effectively, behind closed doors. Instead of taking the initiative to establish standards for the industry, they chose to litigate everyone to bankruptcy rather than put in the effort to figure things out on their own. Their mindset is to wait for the courts to figure out what they're doing, at which point they will make a variety of claims and test the waters to see what they can get judges to accept as precedent. How revolting. In that regard, I must respectfully disagree with Charles. To Charles Gasparino's question, foreign to its mission, Brad Garlinghouse replied. Their primary objective is to guarantee the safety of their capital. I'm quite sure what he meant was that the job of the state is to literally protect investors from the state. That's when Garlinghouse chimes in with his, "How is that happening here?" The very investors they claim to defend are now attempting to sue them, demonstrating their bad faith. After that, he added lawyer John Deaton as a tag. True, that's the case. If the SEC is actually doing its job here. In the SEC Ripple case, why would so many people in the community want to be involved in that way? Therefore, it seems obvious to me that the majority of those who listened to this were the target audience. And then there was this email from a lawyer named Joe Colasar, whose name I may have butchered, and I talked about it in a previous movie, but I got to sit at the table for a little while. Bill Hinman mentions his upcoming phone conversation with Vitalik Buterin in an email. 10 days before the Ethereum Free Pass speech on June 4, 2018, this occurred. Later this week, we'll be having a conversation with Buterin to make sure he and his team fully grasp how the Ethereum Foundation functions. To verify their viewpoint, if you will. And thus the lawyer put pen to paper. Wow, that's decentralized these days. We have to have known. Joe Lubin had met with Bill Hinman, that much was known. I'm basing this entirely on recollection. If I'm reading the room correctly, I don't think we were previously aware that Vitalik Buterin was having direct interactions with Bill Hinman. That's what the vast majority of folks recalled, too. I'll admit right now that it's possible I'm wrong about that. That's why I'm going to add a few of asterisks. Perhaps we were already aware of this and I simply forgot. You could say that. It's been almost 2.5 years. And there are a lot of details and evidence to consider in this case. But to me, it always seems to be making a larger point anytime it says something like, "Oh, I don't think I knew that, or maybe I did." Please allow me to continue, and we will return to this topic shortly. Legal advisor Gabriel Shapiro shared his thoughts, arguing that this won't have much of an impact. He thinks the Hinman emails are fantastic for ETH, but otherwise don't amount to much. I have no idea why Ripple believes these emails will serve its cause. Therefore, I am going to end this right there. Just reading it made me think, well, okay. Though I admit that if there were something in the Hinman emails directly about XRP and some uncertainty there, it may have been a bombshell for Ripple, I was never convinced that it would be. Due to a lack of evidence, however, I was always skeptical that this would be the case. When I consider everything that has happened up to this point, I am not at all surprised. To suggest, however, that it amounts to a nothing burger, is simply not accurate. To begin, yes, this is definitely relevant when it comes to Ripple's fair notice defense. In that case, a decision must be made. Yes. This will also have a significant impact on what was formerly known as the Court of Public Opinion and what will eventually be known as the Court of Public Opinion. The Court of Public Opinion will be swayed. And that will eventually sway people in Congress, changing how votes are cast and legislation is passed. So, to sum up, that's the only thing that counts. Certainly not a snoozer. This is one massive burger. It's a huge, juicy, old-fashioned burger. Large and stuffed with bacon and 3 kinds of cheese. This is a really significant deal, you guys. This is a major development for sure. All of this is vital, and it's getting a lot of attention. It's important for as many people as possible to be aware of this. Again, it's being widely disseminated. If you're into crypto, you should realize that this is huge. Gabriel Shapiro, the attorney, continues by telling the crowd that is starting to become angry that, number 1, the facts don't care whether you're angry or not. I wish this worked in favor of Ripple, but unfortunately it doesn't. Vitalik, the runner-up, the fact that Hinman had spoken with them before the speech was widely known among crypto attorneys. We already knew this. I'll pause to acknowledge that he may, in fact, be right about it. Just can't seem to bring it to mind at the moment. Not saying it didn't happen because of it. You may recall Attorney Deaton, since I recalled that Joe Lubin had meetings leading up to this. When asked about Ethereum's lack of a governing body, he had previously asked, "What do you mean you can't find a central authority?" Before giving your lecture about how Ethereum should be free, you met with them. They were present at your meeting. Bill. Hinman, Bill, exactly what are you referring to? To conclude, we were aware of this. Knowing or not knowing about this communication with Vitalik Buterin wouldn't alter anything, given we were previously aware of the Joe Lubin component. In that case, who exactly is an ETH co-founder? Whatever the case may be, and continuing with Gabriel Shapiro, I agree that the evidence of Hinman's collusion with Consensus and Vitalik is useful to Ripple's fair notice defense. Okay, so right there he admits, contrary to what he just argued, that it does help Ripple, specifically the fair notice defense. That goes against everything we said. That's the more appropriate term to use. It goes against what he just said about how this isn't beneficial to Ripple. Ripples are helped by it. But he keeps going on. However, these details were already public knowledge prior to the release of these emails, therefore the emails themselves do not alter the situation. The emails were promoted as if they contained shocking information. How closely you're paying attention makes a difference. If you've been listening carefully, you might not be as surprised as someone who is just hearing about this for the first time. However, the discovered information is indeed significant. It's somewhat larger than I expected, which is nice. This is a story I've been watching very attentively. If you look back at my most recent video, you'll see that I was discussing how, in 2018, the SEC argued that tokens themselves are not securities. And in my most recent video, I went into great detail on the topic. Do you agree that this is a major development? And if the crypto community as a whole grasps this, it will greatly affect opinions and, for some, ignite a desire to exert pressure on their representatives to draft appropriate legislation to regulate the industry as a whole. So, once again, I will merely disagree with them politely. Since I believe he is acting honorably, I will not criticize his actions. He seems okay to me, and I've featured his work on my channel before. I enjoy hearing so many different perspectives. There is, therefore, nothing personal against this lawyer. I simply want to say that I respectfully and strongly disagree with the assumption that this is being oversold or is not valuable or is nothing more than a hoopla. Then he says, okay, so now a bunch more documents have been published, so I'm going to have to go through all those and may have to reevaluate my initial take depending on what's there. Having gone through all that, he went on to write the additional markups are interesting from a crypto law standpoint to see how different people at the SEC were thinking about issues at the time, but my initial assessment that these emails aren't a bombshell for Ripple's case stands. Fair notice is affected, but that's fine if you're talking about a bombshell that just dropped on Ripple's case. However, when Brad Garlinghouse suggested that this material would be shocking, he wasn't implying that it was stunning and helpful to the case. Not what he actually stated. He anticipated shock at the news. And I believe for those who haven't known, who haven't been keeping up with any of this and who didn't have their expectations set, they are just set with, hey, here is the information and delight. They would be thinking, what in the holy hell? Because if I didn't know any better, that's how I'd react. The SEC is horrible. But I do recognize how repulsive they are. Again, as I mentioned in my most recent videos, there were a few moments when I was shocked, and the token argument in particular left me speechless. Security does not lie in the token itself. They are now claiming that the token is a security in and of itself. And the Supreme Court case, commonly known as the embodiment theory, SEC versus Ripple. No, not much sun lately. It's a load of baloney. Member of the XRP community and attorney Bill Morgan retweeted the thread I just shared with you. It was previously unknown that SEC employees who helped prepare the speech believed it would cause further confusion in the market. The evidence provided by the Hinman email is useful not only for Ripple's fair notice case, but also for Coinbase's planned fair notice defense. That settles it, then. Not simply beneficial for Ripple, though I imagine they already had a solid fair notice defense. In addition, this is great news for Coinbase. After all, Ripple undertook much of the legwork to get XRP listed on their exchange. And then, someone reacted to attorney Bill Morgan's remarks. And in this sense, as I mentioned earlier in the video, Vitalik Buterin got on the horn with Billy Boy Hinman to clarify some points. We don't see a third-party promoter bitch, Bill Hinman is quoted as saying. You have conversations with him, and you do so more than once. What the devil do you think you're talking about? Yes. There is an outside promoter standing right there, you know. Certainly not because I desire it to be a safety. This was my first time purchasing a cryptocurrency. Yes, I still have it. I really hope not. I'm only pointing out that Bill Hinman's arguments are completely ridiculous. At first glance, that appears to be the case. After reading this, Bill Morgan retweeted it and added, we don't see a third-party promoter, but we will phone its founder to get an understanding about his crypto before we selectively tell the world it's not a security. It's absurd. It's meant to be humorous. What gives with this life? This is from another XRP YouTuber and blockchain supporter I know. On Twitter, he conducted a quick survey. Were you astonished by the bill's depiction of sexually explicit behavior? 20 hours remain, according to today's email from Hinman, but more than 6,000 votes have already been cast. And you have the option of saying no. In contrast to my expectations, I am surprised. To put it simply, I voted no. That's in accordance with my prior assumptions, therefore it confirms my expectations. Not that there weren't any shocks, but they mostly applied to me. To say I'm astonished would be inaccurate, but there are a few surprises here and there. Personally, I assumed there would be some damaging evidence. In all honesty, I assumed the likelihood of that happening was high. That doesn't imply there couldn't be, especially in more recent times. It's highly unlikely that XRP-related content would appear. You can see that I was more inclined to agree that, yeah, there's probably something about XRP in there if you watch my videos from back in the day. Recent events have made me less confident that there is anything particularly related to XRP, but I still figure there may be something there. It's astonishing, especially since what Brad Garlinghouse said last October, after Ripple verified the documents. Therefore, I assumed there must be something within. That's why I keep stating that the SEC in 2018 realized that the token itself is never the security, like when I saw this today. Oh, you freaking infant back, because I have zero patience for this. Not at all, honest. Things like that happened on occasion, and each time I was like, yeah, I thought there might be something, but then it hits you in a certain way, you know what I mean? That's kind of the point I'm making, I guess. Oh my god, it's just vegetables, even if at first I thought there could be a chance for something. Now I want to hear your opinions on this. However, the vast majority, 86%, of people claim that it did not surprise them at all. 15.3% of respondents say they are astonished right now. The situation may change now. You still have time to cast your ballot, the deadline is in 24 hours. Leave your thoughts in the comments, but that's where I'm at right now. At this point, I think it's best to end. It is currently 14:46 Central Standard Time, 1:46 p.m. Central Standard Time. With any luck, if it's possible, I'll be back in the Twitter Spaces later today. If not, the nighttime owl still has a shot at producing more material. However, I cannot give any such assurance. The analysis of such matters will go on, nevertheless. There will be enough of room for you to take in information, hear different points of view, and join the discussion. Even if things go badly today, I'll have to get back to processing the remainder of this information tomorrow. Our local attorneys and regular folks keep chipping away at it and uncovering new details. Again, I guess at this point you could say we've done a fair job of at least skimming the surface, but there's so much more information to be gleaned from the source. Now, we shall see. But I'll end it here and say how much I appreciate your help. I cannot express my gratitude enough. By speaking out against the SEC, the entire community has made a significant difference. And by roughly 76,000, I mean the number of XRP holders that John Deaton is currently representing in court. That, I believe, will have far-reaching effects in the SEC case of the V-Ripple. This has never happened before in the United States, but Judge Torres knows it's impossible. Obviously, I can't provide you financial advice. My words here should not be used as a basis for making any financial transactions. And please like and subscribe my channel. See you in the next video, bye.